Hi, folks. Welcome to Never on the Back Foot. In today's live stream, we are discussing the double header Saturday, right, which was extremely exciting. So, a lot of drama happened too. We're talking about two major matches here. That was the Gujarat Giants taking on the UP Warriors, and we had Delhi Capitals take on Mumbai Indians. Both the matches happened at Navi Mumbai. One could say, double headers in a league that's this small can be, sort of difficult to navigate, not just obviously for the fans, but for the players playing themselves. But Darshan, first things first, like, what did you make of the two matches itself, right? The league just has five teams, and then you had Mumbai play like back to back matches. It obviously was going to always be difficult. I mean, they did end up winning, but still.
Definitely. So firstly, glad to be here. Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, it's definitely a difficult job for them, especially after the first game was such a high intensity one. Player like as a fan, it was exhausting to watch. I can imagine how hard it must have been as a player to go from that to then coming back. And we also saw it meant that Haley Matthews couldn't start again because the two games were so close together. So that's another game they've missed out on her for. Um, but yeah, it's definitely very taxing on the players, and it's also I imagine hopefully thankfully it's a little bit better this time of year. But sometimes with these early starts, you also have the heat coming in. In January, I think it's probably a bit better, but as we go further into the year, those evening games get very hot. So that's also another factor that generally makes afternoon games a bit tricky. But yeah, this is not the only. This is not even Mumbai are not even the only team with a 1 day turnaround. I believe Delhi and UP are playing again tomorrow, today, this evening. So that's very difficult for them as well. Um, yeah, so it's yeah, definitely very difficult and very tricky, and makes me wonder why exactly they're having a couple double headers for this competition. But uh, yeah, it makes life very tricky for the teams for sure. I would That's not a position I would envy at all.
Yeah, I mean, I hope there is some level of introspection and just, looking into the scheduling side of things, right? Because when you observe the schedule, there are like a bunch of break days there in between. So I'm not sure what was the need to keep like double headers and just make it extremely hectic for the players. Agreed, it's happening at the same venue. There's no travel aspect involved, but just getting ready for a game, playing a whole game, right? It's not just 20 overs. You're playing 20 overs, then you're fielding about the same. So it gets, hectic in that way. And I think even during the Women's T20 Challenge, a precursor to the WPL, there were discussions about, not having these afternoon games because it's just way too taxing on the players. So again, just keeping my fingers crossed that there is some insight, in that regard. But let's get started with our matches itself, right? Match two saw GG versus UP Warriors take on. For the uninitiated, I think this is definitely one of the rivalries that isn't spoken about enough. Every single time the two teams square off, there's like something on offer, and this match was no different, right? Again, Darshan, your first thoughts on the match itself. Like, did you feel like it was an early season classic? I mean, eventually, the winning team did win by 10 runs, but it was such a compelling contest from ball one, right?
Oh, definitely. You took the words out of my mouth that it's an underrated rivalry. But yeah, every Gujarat UP Warriors game I've seen has been a pretty fantastic one, right from the very first clash they had way back in 2023 with Grace Harris and Kim Garth doing their thing. So definitely, it's a wonderful rivalry through the years, and this game was absolutely no exception. I really loved the surface for this game. It was a little bit. It was also quite true, and so we saw some really impressive batting on display from both teams, especially from uncapped players on both sides. So that was it was wonderful to watch, and yeah, watching Phoebe Litchfield is always a treat as well. So definitely seeing her come good was nice, and yeah, what an all round show from Georgia Wareham. Of course, that was something probably we'll dissect a bit more, but yeah, I think. I actually was looking to this number earlier. In her last 20 balls of WPL, Georgia Wareham has made 57 runs. That's 10 balls from last season, 10 balls from this game. So she is striking at maybe 300 across these balls. So yeah, it's hopefully it's a sign of things to come for her. I think I've always felt that yeah, she's a quality all rounder, and I hope that this season is where she really takes it to the next level.
Yeah, I think she's just again served a reminder of why she's one of the most sought after all rounders, right, in world cricket at the moment. Did incredibly well at the WBBL too, and to see her, carry on that vein of form here is pleasing. And again, before we start dissecting the match more, Darshan, like what did you make of the team combinations itself, right? I mean, both GG and UP Warriors had a little bit of an overhaul, right? At the auction, you saw them go like all guns blazing for certain players, and obviously the makeup of their playing 11 is going to be very different from their past seasons. But again, did you have thoughts about how the playing 11s were sort of shaping up for both teams?
Yeah, I think yeah, Gujarat were one of my favorite ones, even in the lead up to the season, because I thought the way they set up their team, even though they didn't get a whole lot of maybe the big senior Indian players, they did structure their squad in a way where everybody was sort of in their right position, and they had all the major roles sort of covered with the ball as well. So I thought that was something that they did very well at the start, and it showed today in the way that they were able to approach their innings. I thought the way they paced things was very impressive. So that's I thought they did full marks to them for that. The UP Warriors also were very good. I think the today is not a reflection of how good that bowling attack is. You have Eccleston, Deepthi, Asha Shobana. I think maybe the bowling allocation could have been a bit better. We'll probably talk about that later on. But I think the combination was probably what we all expected. The one surprise, of course, was Shweta Sherawat taking the gloves. Abhishek Nair had alluded to it a bit, I think, earlier in this year, but just before the season started. But I think it is definitely a big plus for her. And it also has given UP Warriors that bit of flexibility to play the extra batter in Harleen in there. Um, and like we were speaking offline, the one concern I did have for the UP Warriors lineup was maybe the lack of power through the middle, because you do have that middle of Harleen, Shweta, Deepthi, and Deandra Doughton. So a lot of the onus of power hitting would tend to fall on Deandra Doughton. But again, Shweta Sherawat's little cameo there was very inspiring to see, and hopefully that is a sign of things that to come, that she's worked on that power game. But yeah, but that's we'll talk, maybe that we'll talk about that more in due course.
Yeah, because again, just coming back to how the match unfolded, right? Gujarat batting first got to 207. Beth Mooney had a rather sedate start, so to say, but Sophie Devine at the other end was really, just going hammer and tongs. And then just add to that, Anushka Sharma and Ash Gardner, right, chipping in with their respective knocks. You spoke about the Georgia Wareham cameo coming in later too. Bharti Fulmerino just adding those finishing touches. Just talk to us about that batting effort and what really stood out for you.
Yeah, so I thought it was, again, like we mentioned, very well paced. I think Beth Mooney and Sophie Devine is a really nice opening combination. It allows Sophie Devine to go hard like she did. It's actually, yeah, they go very hard like she did, while Beth Mooney sort of plays that anchor role and guides the innings through. Unfortunately, she couldn't get a big score today, but we know she's not gonna. That's not gonna. That she. I'm sure she'll be due a few ones this tournament. And particularly, I was very impressed with the effort of Anushka Sharma. I think she was absolutely fantastic, and I think she's lit up a lot of the social media as well with that knock. What stood out to me in particular was that she kept the tempo up really well. The way that her technique was really strong, and she was definitely pushing the fielders on the boundary quite a lot, and was yeah, keeping up that tempo really well, which set things up beautifully for the likes of Fulmali, for the likes of Georgia Wareham to take the past to a what was definitely an above par score. So definitely, yeah, a superb batting effort. UP perhaps a little bit iffy with the ball. Maybe some of the bowling changes I questioned a little bit, but like I said previously, it was just a bit of an off day for them. That bowling lineup is also very strong on paper, so hopefully they will bounce back stronger.
Yeah, because UP Warriors is just the bowling attack side of things, right? It looks much better than what it was in the past seasons. Clearly, this match is not a reflection of the kind of potential that the unit carries at large. But again, Darshan, just to focus on Ash Gardner's knock, right? I mean, playing an absolute knock, from the skipper's bat, 65 of 41. Like, how do you put that knock in perspective, and just the partnership, right, with Anushka Sharma there playing with an uncapped Indian player? Just brilliant stuff, right?
Yes, apologies, I missed that when I was talking. Yes, she did. Yeah, it was a fantastic bit of hitting from Ash, like we've seen it from the past couple of seasons as well. Um, yeah, she also definitely she started off a bit slower. I think when Anushka was sort of hitting those boundaries early, she was a bit more sedate. But I think she also, I saw she took it up a notch as soon as a little bit later on she took Asha for a couple of big sixes there. So definitely good to see her in good touch as well. Yeah, so it was a good example of a captain leading from the middle, and yeah, it was a very very similar to actually how Harman did later in the day, batting at 4. So yeah, very very good effort all around, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think pre-season too, right? A lot of people had spoken about how Ash Gardner is probably the backbone of that batting effort, and how a lot of their fortunes in the batting department side of things will hinge on, how her, Beth Mooney, Sophie Devine perform. So nice to see, either of the like one among the trio to sort of step up and deliver. But again, just looking at UP Warriors' chase, right? I mean, 208 was always going to be a big ask. Meg Lanning, being the captain of the side, but again, just looking at that batting unit, we were, concerned about how the middle order will shape up and everything. But again, you had Phoebe Litchfield sort of, lead the charge there, played an amazing knock, almost kept UP in the hunt, right, to chase things down. But wickets were falling in clumps. Again, Darshan, if you had to sort of contextualize how this batting inning sort of, turned out for UP Warriors and how they almost came close but just missed out.
Yeah, for sure. Like I think they actually really came back well after the start because at the beginning there they looked a bit scratchy. I think both Meg and Phoebe started off somewhat sedatedly, and so the way that they came back into it was very impressive to see. Phoebe really kicked it up a notch, and they were also very well guided. I think there was they did stuff had a bit of a stutter there with Harleen and Deepthi going quite quickly. Um, but again, I think that little cameo from Shweta Sehrawat also gave them that little bit of extra kick. And yeah, in the end, perhaps they might be wondering what could have been had they maybe managed like just maneuvered their bowling a bit better because they only lost by 10 runs. And yeah, also a wonderful little cameo by Asha there. Just wanted to shout that out. We've known that she can bat, but again, just to see her do this on such a big stage against some quality bowlers was also really, really good to see. And definitely that impact is something I think UP will be thankful for later on in the competition when net run rate could really come into play. So
And Darshan, further just getting your thoughts on UP Warriors and the way their batting unit is, sort of shaping up. I know it's just the first match and can't be too harsh on it. But then they had the likes of Meg Lanning and Kiran Navgire open, which I think a lot of people had thought, was going to be the way it would shape. But then Phoebe Litchfield, right, when you just look at her numbers at number 5, number 6, much better than when she's batting at the top of the order. Lately, we've seen, Australia sort of use her up top, or even Sydney Thunder, where she plays WBBL for, sort of use her up there. Again, like, where do you think she slots in best, right? I know this match she did end up getting that very crucial knock, but then as the season progresses to for the rest of the batting to just settle in, where do you see her slotted? Number 3 or number 5?
yeah, I think she's one of those players who you can actually even use quite dynamically through the innings. So if you need a bit of a kicker, like a kick to get the run rate going up, I think she could slide up. She is very good at setting that tempo and keeping that strike rate high, so the run rate stays good. Um, but yeah, I think there is also an option to potentially move someone like Harleen up to 3, where I think she would be a little bit more effective. And same thing for someone like for Deepthi. Of course, she had her MVP season primarily batting in the top order. So that's also something that they might want to consider. So yeah, they could be quite dynamic with that if they feel. They could even look at which is the first wicket to fall. So if you lose Kiran Navgire early, then maybe you need that little bit of extra impetus. Maybe that's a good sign to send Phoebe Litchfield up top. Whereas if you lose Meg Lanning early, then maybe you need someone to play more of that anchor type role. Then you could send up a Deepthi or a Harleen. So as long as they have that clarity in their plan, I think both of these could execute either way. And there is a benefit to Phoebe Litchfield sliding down. Of course, you also get that little bit of power through the middle order as well. So it takes a little bit of the load off of Doughton for that. So there's definitely pros to that as well. So absolutely right, Neha. So there's that's something they could definitely consider as well.
Yeah, I think as the season progresses, there's definitely some merit to this argument of, probably playing her a little lower. So, probably Harleen can come in at number 3, and there's like a little bit of a rejig in that batting order because Shweta Sehrawat coming in that much later doesn't really make sense, right? I think off record, we were speaking about how domestically she
Yeah.
bats like way up higher, and this is like putting a lot of pressure on. A youngster like her. And so far, we've spoken so much about UP Warriors and their batting effort. But then just looking at Gujarat's bowling effort too, right? I think one name that definitely deserves a mention is that of Renuka Singh Thakur, right? I think her new ball spell was just phenomenal in sort of setting the tone for Gujarat. Although, Kashmir Gautam was getting tonked from the other end, you still had her, sort of hold her end. Again, your thoughts on Renuka and how she's finding feet with this new team?
Oh yeah, for sure. It's definitely a very very good start for her in this setup. She was getting a bit of movement and also got the big wicket of Kiran Navgire, who we've all seen how dangerous she can be. So definitely a very good performance from her. I was also very impressed. They brought her back sort of later on in the innings uh, when UP were just sort of getting a bit of momentum, and she took a lot of pace off the ball, and she was able to actually get in quite an economic over. So she was able to perform even outside of where we think of Singh Thakur as being very effective in those first 6 overs. So I was very impressed by seeing that we were able to see her do. So bring some of her witchcraft, or wizardry, sort of like in the middle order, and really sort of use that to restrict UP Warriors, and just get in those few crucial dot balls that I think maybe made the difference in the end.
I mean, although there was a big total for UP Warriors to chase, and they almost, gave it a fight till the end. But somewhere you could see how Gujarat's bowling unit was all over the place, right? Because when you just have a look at the bowling chart, I mean, there's no bowler besides Renuka who has like an economy of less than 7 there. Kashvi Gautam, Sophie Devine, Ash Gardner, Georgia Wareham, and even Rajeshwari Gaikwad, who bowled that solitary over, all of them, going in excess. So somewhere do you think this bowling unit again, it's just the first match, can't jump the gun here, might come under the scanner as the season progresses against probably the more tougher teams?
Yeah, potentially. It's yeah, definitely something that they are a bit reliant, I think, on Sophie Devine and Georgia Wareham, definitely to provide them that sort of stability, that balance rather. Um, they are missing Titash Sadhu. I think I don't know if it's due to injury or if they just chose not to select her for this particular game, so that's a bit of a miss. I can't recall if Tanuja Kanwar bowled many overs today. I don't think so. But that's also a resource that hopefully will come into play later on in the innings, in the tournament. So hopefully that's also something that will hopefully improve their standard a little bit more. Um, but yeah, it's definitely they've hopefully that's something that will. It was a very high scoring game, to be fair. So I again, like you said, it is one game, so I'm not going to judge too harshly. But again, just something to keep in mind for them, that yeah, this just to be uh, yeah, hopefully just be more mindful about about the plan. But it was also a bit of a rough initiation for a number of bowlers these last couple of games. Even with the UP side, we saw they have quite a good attack that went for some runs. Even later in the day, we saw a few really good bowlers get tonked a bit. So initiation by fire, of course, but I do back them to come back good later in the competition. Yeah, and Ash Gardner has used them all quite well so far. So hopefully that carries on.
And I think valid point there, Darshan. It really does put in perspective even just the pitches, right? Because of the way the T20 game is progressing, you see the pitches, sort of getting curated to serve the needs of the batters, the whole entertainment value of seeing the batters just go all guns blazing at the bowlers. We're sparing a thought to the bowlers FC for a reason. But do you have any final thoughts though before we move on to our next match? Because GG, will be taking on Delhi Capitals today, and even UP Warriors, right? We will see them in action tomorrow versus RCB as well. So do you, suspect any changes that they want to bring in? Same playing 11s? Like, how do you see these matchups?
For Gujarat, um yeah, again, the only change I might think about is if Titash Sadhu's fit, maybe bringing her in for Rajeshwari Gaikwad, just so you have a little bit of seam cover for if Kashfi Gautam or Renuka Singh Thakur has a bad day. She's also a very useful bowler to have in that lineup. Um, yeah, that's probably the only change I might consider. Everything else looks pretty good and so yeah, hopefully we'll see another very good Gujarat performance tonight against Delhi. And yeah, but I would just hope that they're able to take that momentum forward, and yeah, just not just yeah, keep going.
Yeah, because Gujarat is again, as much as people sort of thrashed this unit, like, oh, what was the kind of auction they had? They could have done much better, use their purse money. I think they still had, quite the decent performance yesterday, and just take that confidence and move ahead. Which brings me to match three, right? Which was Mumbai versus DC. Again, heavyweights, right? Taking on each other. So, your first thoughts on the match itself, because Mumbai, clearly seemed like a much better unit, like the kind of execution in different areas felt better, right, than the first match. And Delhi Capitals, again, it was the proper anatomy of like a collapse, right, and especially in their batting side of things. So, where do you think the game truly swung, right, for either teams? If you had to again just look back in hindsight.
Yeah, so I think the one major area where I think Mumbai absolutely probably came out trumps was the first 6 to 8 overs with the ball. I think the batting effort was fantastic. It's seeing Nat Sciver-Brunt and Harman just do their thing was Really, it was really nice to watch. But I think really where they snuffed out the effort was with the bat, with the ball, because if we recall from match one, what gave RCB a bit of that leeway to take the game deep was the start they had with Grace Harris and Smriti putting on a bit of a rapid opening duo partnership. And so I was expecting something maybe like that from Shafali and Lizelle Lee, but Mumbai did very well to keep those two tight, keep those two quiet, and to not allow them both to get very quick runs up front. And I think that was very key in sort of making sure the game was quite far out of Delhi's reach, even despite that really good 50 at the back end from Chanel Henry. So definitely good piece of work on a very good on a good batting track. Really good bowling performance from by there.
Yeah, fair enough. And a lot of talking points that you bring in, we will discuss, through the course of this, major segment where we talk about match three. But again, just what did you make of the team playing 11s, right? Mumbai enforced that one change. Saika Ishaq was out. Triveni Vashishta came in. And for Delhi too, right? A new look unit under Jemima Rodriguez. I still think a lot of DC fans are like salty that, hey, we don't have Meg Lanning. But then it's impossible not to like Jamie Rodriguez, the captain itself, and the way, she sort of went about building that playing 11. So yeah, talk us through your not just emotions but just feelings on both these playing 11s.
Oh, it is a big deal. Like you took the words out of my mouth again there. So like it is a big deal seeing seeing the Delhi Capitals without Meg Lanning, isn't it? So the Shafali Meg Lanning opening duo is one of the most well established and most successful in the WPL, if not the most successful. I have to check the numbers on that. So yeah, definitely seeing a new opening partner for Shafali was definitely a big change after that mega auction. But I was actually very happy that Delhi chose to play Lizelle Lee over Alana King, because I think their batting just looks a lot more settled when you do that. That top five, you have Lizelle Lee, Shafali, both of whom are very aggressive, followed by Jemmy and Laura Wolfart, both of whom can sort of, if you lose early wickets, can play that anchor type role and get you where you need to go. Followed by Marizan Cap, of course, who's very dynamic, Nikki Prasad, and Chanel Henry, of course, who one of the best, who I believe actually has the lowest balls per six ratio in the competition. So definitely a huge name in the WPL. And yeah, of course, so definitely a very well thought out batting lineup for Delhi. So I really like the lineup for sure. Which is why again I compliment Mumbai so much on that bowling performance to break this lineup so early on. Mumbai again, again with the short turnaround as we discussed in the beginning, did it hurt them from the point of view that they couldn't bring in Haley Matthews for the second game. But again, and Nicola Carey, how good was she? Like it gives Mumbai a lot of selection headaches there. When all four of their overseas, including their backup all rounder, are just so at the top of their game. So yeah, and okay, of course, it was nice to see Mumbai make that change to bring in Triveni ahead of Saika Ishak. I have felt that they could use that last bowling slot on somebody maybe with a little bit more of a high potential, with someone who's quite high potential, like one of these uncapped players, which they have quite an interesting stock of, to try and just to use them, because they do have a lot of bowling support with their all rounders, so they can afford to use this one spot for somebody who they're very excited for, without much of a fear of failure.
Yeah, and I think as the season progresses, it'll be interesting to see how they sort of shape that playing 11. But getting that first win under your belt is definitely going to do a world of good, right, to the confidence, especially for that MI unit too. But let's just talk about how the match unfolded, right? Mumbai, I mean, lost Amelia Kaur to the first ball itself. The experiment of having her open clearly seems to be not working out so well. Yet they ended up, scoring 195, largely driven by Nat Sciver-Brunt and Harmanpreet Kaur. The usual suspects, get the job done in rebuilding the innings without, sort of losing that momentum. Again, Darshan, if you had to talk about just the knocks and that partnership, right, which clearly was game changing in a way when you look at it.
Oh, absolutely. It was. I am actually a very big fan of Nat Sciver-Brunt, so it was really nice to see her amongst the runs again. The way she sort of maneuvered the crease, particularly against Sharani, she sort of moved around to get her sweeps out. That was really good to see. And yeah, good to see her amongst the runs, of course. And I thought she took the charge on early when Kamalini was maybe struggling a bit, and then and then she also kept that tempo up, which also allowed Harman on the other side to sort of take a few balls to get herself in before unleashing her onslaught. So I think really she was very key in that Mumbai Indians innings really being paced the way it was. And yeah, definitely a very, very good total. Even on a good batting surface like this, 190 is always daunting to chase. So definitely great work from the two stalwarts of the WPL. Two of the I believe both of them are on in the top five run scorers of the WPL all time. So yeah, just as a Mumbai fan, you would love to see it. So yeah, great work from that top five.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you on that one. And even just spotlighting Harmanpreet Kaur, right? Her performance, that 74 not out. I think the way she was just middling the ball, right, was phenomenal to see. Even if you're not an MI fan, you're just a fan of Harmanpreet Kaur or the Indian team. It's just great, right, to see her be in that sort of a Midas touch. We're looking ahead, with the mission of the T20 World Cup that's happening a little later this year. So again, just talk to us about how she sort of, paced her innings and the way, Mumbai just wanted to go above and beyond with the sort of total they wanted to set in that first innings.
Yeah, like I say, it just speaks to how well they know each other. They know their plan. That in the beginning, Nat Sciver-Brunt was able to take the game on early and sort of keep that tempo going, which allowed. I think Harman she was I think 23 of 18 I think at the start, so she did take her time a little bit in the beginning. But wow, when she unleashed, just wow, the way she went. She really took on Charani in that one over, just like peppering the boundaries. And I think she hit one absolutely towering six off Marizan cap, and yeah, just Harman things you love to see, really. And it's great to see her in full flow, definitely. Even though I'm not a Mumbai fan, just love seeing Harman in full flow. So definitely, yeah, fantastic batting.
Yeah, I think form like that definitely augurs well, right? When you again look at it from an India perspective too. But just looking at Delhi Capitals, right, the kind of bowling outing that they had, I think it's impossible for us to not rave about Nandini Sharma, right? My God, on her debut, taking two massive wickets and looking like, $1 million, right? Because the rest of the bowling was clearly struggling, but then Nandini Sharma just bowling incredibly well. Like, what did you make of her performance?
Fantastic. I heard she was also clicking some very high pace there, in addition to, because I had heard up front that she's very good at swinging the ball, but hitting that high sort of pace, it just makes her all that more valuable. And she did bowl extremely well. She I believe she also choked at the back end when Nicola Carey was going to get her out like that, was actually very good. Yeah, so a fantastic debut spell from her, and all the more important because the way Delhi squad is constructed, they only have the two frontline pacers besides her, which is Marizan Cap and Chanel Henry. So for her to come good at this level, she's sort of being thrust into the. It's a bit of trial by fire for her going onto this big stage on such good batting surfaces up like this. But yeah, really good outing for her to start, and hopefully it's upward and beyond for her moving forward.
Yeah, fingers crossed because I think as we discuss this too, the we've got the news that the WPL Speed Queen initiative is also something that's in
Mm.
full flow, right? Hopefully, we get some more entrants from that. But to see names like this, constantly perform is again really nice, and hopefully again just gives us a lot more paces, inspires a lot more people to take up pace bowling too. Now, again, when you look at it, Mumbai ended up making 195, which meant Delhi had to chase down that total. You could see there's some confidence in that unit, right? A point you spoke about too, that Delhi has such a deep batting lineup. The fact that you have Lizelle Lee, you have Shafali Verma, Laura Wolford, Jemima Rodriguez, the list just goes on and on. It's an absolute cheat code. You'd assume that any day of the week they're going to chase this down. Jemima has a lot of experience playing in Navi Mumbai too. But then somehow they just ended up collapsing, right? The way they did. Again, if you just had to share your thoughts on what really went wrong for DC there, I mean, the obvious being, losing wickets in clumps, lack of partnerships. We didn't have one batter sort of take responsibility, except, Chanel Henry. There's only so much she can do, right? But then just again, talk to us about that batting effort and what kind of just did not work out well for them.
Yeah, definitely. So one of the things that they did with that perhaps they missed out one on was just getting that start with their two openers. So neither Lizelle nor Shafali could really get going with that sort of high intensity partnership up front. So that was one thing that hurt them. And also, very importantly, they were not really able to. Neither Laura Wolfart nor Shafali, excuse me, nor Jemmy Rodriguez was really able to get up to build an innings as well, because that would be the role I would have for them in that lineup, and why they'd be so important. Because if I lose wickets up front early, then these two are the ones I would trust to sort of guide me through and sort of take it deep towards the back end. And it had one of them survived to bat a little bit with Chanel Henry at that back end, maybe this could have been a different game altogether. So getting them early was very key. But to Mumbai's credit, I think some of the balls they bowled were really impressive. Like the ball Nicola Carey bowled to get Shafali Verma, I think it jagged back in really sharply. So definitely, so that was just really good bowling, I think, as much as as much as Delhi's collapse. So yeah, so it was just a very unfortunate day for them. But I would back them to come back again for sure. But yeah, it's just a very unfortunate that they lost so many key batters up front.
I'm actually so glad you bring in the point of Mumbai's bowling because this was one pointer I was really excited to discuss about Nicola Carey, right? Who's had a spectacular WPL so far. I know it's just 2 games versus RCB. She did her all round thing, but I think it really came through, right, in this match versus DC. Her spell, especially in the power play, getting those double strikes in 1 over and just taking the match on its head, right? Like, how crucial do you think was her ability to just attack the stumps? Very similar dismissals, right? Of Laura Wolfart and Shafali Verma. And this is against a Delhi top order that's kind of known for its aggression and was trying to, score as many runs as possible. Yeah, your thoughts on just her spell?
Yeah, very key. Like it kept Delhi off key, and yeah, just getting Laura out in particular, getting Shafali. We know what both of them can do on their day, so definitely getting them out was very key. And it also just meant that Delhi were on the back foot consistently moving forward. So they were never really, and they didn't really have the luxury of a good start as well, because they were not really able to sort of flex their muscles in those opening overs again, thanks to the likes of Shabnim Ismail and Nat Sciver-Brunt, who was a lot more resurgent with the ball today than she was in game one. So definitely, so there was also a part in that. But yeah, getting them out early meant that there was a lot more work for Jemmy to do when she came in, and for the likes of Nikki Prasad and Marizan Kap to follow. And yeah, Mumbai just kept piling on after that. Like they were not really, none of those batters really were able to get going. It was only Chanel Henry in the end who delivered a nice little 50 there. With a few sparks from Sneh, Rana, and Minu Mani. So yeah, good stuff from them. But at the same time, I think Delhi desperately needed runs from their top five, and I would hope this doesn't happen to them again. But I also don't think it will very often. This was just a very exceptional bowling performance from the Mumbai Indians.
Yeah, because even just microscopically looking at Chanel Henry's knock, right, her 56 clearly was like just a lone resistance in that run chase, right? Again, when you look at a collapse like this, the way it did happen for Delhi, like how do you assess the impact of a knock, right? Because Delhi unfortunately was at the receiving end when Chanel Henry was playing for the UP Warriors, but to do this for them on debut again was quite the counter-attacking knock, right? Even in defeat. So how do you just put this knock in perspective?
Yeah, very, very, very high class, I think, and bit not unlike Sajana's knock from game one as well. So a very good counter-attacking knock when the top order has not been able to kick on. Again, another knock that perhaps didn't necessarily deserve to be on the losing side, but unfortunately someone has to lose. But yeah, it was very high quality. She made sure that they didn't bow, because I think they were around 40 for 5 or something at one stage, and so you were afraid that they were going to get bowled out for a whole lot less. So again, she took them to a point where they were probably saved them a few blushes. So I think again, when we talk about net run rate, we know that could very much come into play later on. But yeah, definitely a good aggressive knock from them, from her. And again, it shows that it shows that the services are still good for batting, and it rewards that sort of good stroke play and that good intent. And yeah, hopefully we'll see more of her later on in the competition.
Yeah, hopefully we do get to see a lot more of her, as the tournament progresses. But when we look at Mumbai's bowling effort too, right? Obviously, it largely hinged on the likes of Shabnim Ismail. You had Nat Sciver-Brunt, Nicola Carey, and Amelia Kerr, doing much of the damage. Amelia Kerr, although who has been having a very, I'd say, forgettable outing with the bat, has been doing incredibly well with the ball. I mean, that's her USP, right? If she doesn't do well in one department, she'll still, end up doing incredibly well in the other. Now, she took 3 wickets. So, again, like, how do you look at her impact with the ball and just the kind of wickets she got, right? Just massive impact, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Amelia, like actually, I was just to go back to game one for a second. Cricinfo does this sort of impact score for each game, and despite having 4 of 14 with the bat, she was just so good with the ball. that her impact ended up being the overall impact being the third highest or something in the game. So yeah, she's definitely been bowling really, really well, just at the top of her game. And she carried that on here as well. She was able, I think she was the one who got Chanel Henry out in the end. But yeah, she kept it tight, just as good as you would expect from the New Zealand legend there. Yeah, again, like I would not be too worried about her batting, but yeah, but that's again the value of having such all rounders like this in your team. If you they'll give you something, if not both. And I think of someone like Amelia Kerr, even though her batting was not amazing these last two games, is someone who you could probably even select just for one of her disciplines, and you would probably pay a lot of money for it as well. But having both again is a real blessing for Mumbai Indians, and that's why they shelled out such a lot for such a large amount of money for her.
Yeah, perfectly makes sense for them to, sort of go after her because of the kind of value and potential she brings to this setup. And although, most of the wickets were taken by, I think, the overseas players in that MI unit, we still had Sanskriti Gupta take that solitary wicket. And I hope, we see a lot more Indian match winners emerge from, this MI setup. But again, just looking ahead, right, in the tournament, Darshan, like, what does a performance like this say for Mumbai's balance as a side, right? Again, to put in perspective, this is Lisa Kitely's unit, not Charlotte Edwards. And even from a Delhi perspective, does it raise any urgent questions? The turnaround isn't a lot, right? They're already playing a match today. So, like, how would you just look at it?
Yeah, for Delhi, I would just say again, don't overthink it. Like things like this happen. So like we saw at Mumbai themselves, like we said the same thing yesterday morning as well. Like they had a very difficult outing in game one, but they were still able to sort of hold their composure and come back in game two. So I hope Delhi do the same. Just don't get too stuck with it. Just try and yeah, just keep it. Just make sure just come back and give another good performance. They did. They did have their moments as well. I think Marizan Kaur bowled very well at the start. They had a fantastic catch from Lizelle Lee, and yeah, it's that top five, like we spoke, is not something that's going to stay down a second time. I'd say so. Definitely a lot to look forward to from them. And for Mumbai Indians, again, I think one thing that they could, and one thing that I would also mention is they're barely even using Amanjot Kaur, and they're still being so effective without. They haven't used her with the bat yet that much, and she's not really been bowling a whole lot as well. She bowled 3 overs against RCB, but only the two today. So definitely, so the fact that they're able to get so much out of, so they're doing so much without even using her. We know how important Amanjot is to India. We just with her injuries during the World Cup, how much that made us sweat, right? So that's so the fact that they're able to do so much without using someone of that quality speaks to how good their overseas setup has been. And I do hope Amanjot comes into the play a little bit more as we move on into the tournament. But yeah, definitely Mumbai will be very happy with this. And from Delhi point of view, yeah, I just hope that they don't overthink it too much and just come back stronger tomorrow.
Yeah, and I think a very similar sentiment was echoed by Jamie Rodriguez too, right? When she's having the conversation with the broadcaster that they won't really overthink this result because they're already playing a match next. So good, that they won't have so much time to think about it. This is a unit that will definitely bounce back strong. But yeah, Darshan, that pretty much does conclude our discussion. We've comprehensively looked at matches 2 and 3, brought in some really interesting talking points and our observations from the match. And to all the viewers who stuck around for this long, thank you so much. And if you're catching the stream later, just make sure to like, comment, and just let us know what you like, not liked about this stream. And we'll sort of incorporate that feedback going ahead. And thank you so much, Darshan. I again know this is ungodly hours for you, but you still brought in your best self and delivered as always. So yeah, folks, thank you so much. Bye.
Pleasure as always. Take care. Bye.
Bye.